thank you all for checking out this week's episode. Once again, I'm John. If you like what you heard and saw today, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and check out our brand new merch store with hats, coffee mugs, t-shirts, other cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Again, thank you all for support. Be safe, and see you next week. How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk, and today, welcoming back for the third time, Mr. Marcus Torgerson. You guys know Marcus from an episode I did last year at the start of the pandemic, and then halfway Christmas of last year, 2021, he was on here with Jason Johnson, and it's good to have him back for a third time. And we're doing something different here. I've always wanted to have a guest on where I don't have notes, I don't have an agenda, and I couldn't think of a better person than Marcus to be on here because there's so much going on that, again, Marcus, great to have you on here.
Well, thank you. I am very honored to be here because, without sucking ass, I absolutely hold you to the highest degree of respect.
And I love that, Marcus. And just to kind of jump into it, I had an episode a couple weeks ago with Gerard McBee, Malibu for American Gladiators. And what I loved most about the episode, obviously about the gladiators and all the acting and stuff, we had a part where we talked about the idea of just being good people, just talking to someone. And I told the story of when I talked to my mail person for the first time after dropping off merch orders literally all year, and just randomly going, "How's your day going?" And it spurred this really cool conversation, which I immediately thought of you because you're someone who's you're always out there, you're always communicating, you're telling people your good or your bad days. For you, how important is it to have a conversation with someone you don't know every day, or someone you do know, and learn something new about that person?
I think that it is probably the single most important thing as a species that we need to do. And it doesn't, when we say have a conversation, all of a sudden people panic because they're like, well, fuck, I don't really want to get that close to somebody. But what bothers me is when you walk by somebody, you're like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, good, how you doing? And it's just so fleeting. If you just take a second, be like, man, thanks for asking me and have a great day or whatever. Or even walking up to somebody being like, that shirt is dope. I love that shirt. Or whatever. Anything that that's just positive. Because you don't know what that person's going through, right? You have no idea. And you may, not being dramatic, you may have actually kept them from doing something permanent that they would regret.
It's especially after the last couple of years, and we don't have to really talk about it, but you put the mask on, everyone stays away from each other. And don't get me wrong, I love the idea of not being near people sometimes, but there was this weird time after the first 6 months where it's like you didn't even want to say hi to your friends or your family, or you didn't know who to hug. And it's like we lost that human aspect of just saying hello. How's your day? Because like you said, you could save a life just for saying, man, that shirt's really cool. Or, oh, I love how you got your nails done. Or how's work going? Like, what's the price of bananas? And it's like you create this small talk that I think is not only beneficial for yourself, because for me, I love the idea of the communication and quick thinking on your feet, and just kind of just being a human, right? And I just love the reactions people have where it's like this woman that works at the grocery store by me works the early shift, because we always joke now where it's like she goes, I gotta get out of here before the school rush or these crazy parents come in. And every day I see her, how's your day going? And so you get to know these people where it's like, she has grandkids, what you did for Christmas, or she knows where I'm traveling to next. And it's like we can all, no one's too busy not to have that conversation with anyone they know.
Yep. So every morning I go to a place called Bosa Donuts, and it's a franchise or whatever of donut places. And every morning I go in, and there's always a guy behind the counter cooking donuts. And he's like this tall Asian dude, like tall. And forever he was wearing a mask. And all of a sudden he walked behind the counter, and I was like this, hey. And he goes, and then it's his voice that I remember. He goes, hey, how are you doing today? I said, is that what you look like? Holy shit. And it bothered me because I'm so now conditioned that when people, like with masks or no masks, and again, I don't want to get into it because I just don't fucking care. We're moving on. But I miss a human face. You mentioned a hug. There is very few people that could come up to me out of nowhere and say, hey, I need a hug, that I wouldn't give a hug to. Now, I'm not going to go out like you know
Right.
our world, right?
Right.
Fuck. I'm
Yeah.
going to be very apprehensive of who I get close to. But if a man or a woman, for the most part, came forward and said, you know what, I just need a fucking hug, I would. I'm going to start crying. I would do it in a heartbeat, because that's what we're missing in the last little bit, and that's what bothers me, that we're not embracing each other as a species and hugging. Now more than ever, we need to.
There are times, again, through the last couple, even before the pandemic, where I would
Yeah.
get a text where someone being like, "Hey, it's been a while. I'll talk to you. I'll write back. Hey, man, I'm in the middle of something. I'll call you back." I'll literally go weeks or months. Or you'll see someone still be like, "Yeah, I'll give you a call later." You never call that person, and I don't know what the hit was for me, where I'm kind of like, "Why aren't I calling these people?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't I?" Because maybe they're anticipating that call or that conversation, and it doesn't come, and it's like, well, fuck, no, maybe no one cares about me, or maybe I don't. If I don't have John's worth or Marcus's worth, maybe I consider them friends. How could anyone else look differently at me than that?
Yeah. You know what? So there's a guy, his name's Hart, and every morning, we got online, and he was just becoming, I think he had just become sober. I'm not sure exactly, but every morning I get a text message every morning, because he's in same as you, East Coast. I get a text message every morning, and there's been a couple times where I didn't get something, and then I send him one. I'm like, "Hey, are you good?" He goes, "Yeah, works just a blah blah blah." So now every day, either I text him or he texts me. Now it's 2 seconds, man. It's 2 seconds. I send, and you know me, man. I love those video messages. I suck. I
Very
suck at
personal.
texting.
Very personal, though.
But because I want you to see my face, and when I say to you, John, hey man, I fucking love you. I want you not to misinterpret. I don't want any misunderstandings. I want you to know that I love you and I care about you. That's it. And
It's
it's not for everybody.
the idea, and again, another topic I wanted to go segue into is the idea of there's been this push of toxic male masculinity and this idea of, oh, you can't say kick ass, you can't say fucking we're gonna win the day, all this positive stuff is very male rah type stuff.
Yeah.
The idea of a man saying I love you to another person, it for the longest time, I don't know if because grew up watching Predator and Aliens and RoboCop, it's always the male is just kicking ass, right? He doesn't say I
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah. No,
But
it's true.
I found myself now where it's like, if I say like, man, I love you, like it means differently now. I don't know if it's because the last couple of years, but I've finally found how powerful that phrase is to someone who's just, man, I love you, man. It's like you genuinely can love that person. Now, are there people that say that in its empty words? 100%.
Yeah.
Like most things. But for me, if I say it, I can tell by when you say it, you genuinely mean it.
Yes. And I'm going to even go one step further, brother. Honestly, even if people say it and it's empty, even if it's empty, those are 7 of the most magical letters that the English language has when you string them together. And I know people who say, I don't say it all the time because I want it to mean something. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you haven't said it in a week because it doesn't feel right. Well, sometimes we do things that don't feel right for us, but it ends up feeling right for somebody else. And what does it cost me to sit there and say to somebody, if I don't hate them, of course I love them. If I don't like you, then obviously I'm not going to, usually I'm not talking to people I don't like.
Right.
So if I'm talking to you and maybe I'm not feeling overly lovey-dovey, but I don't hate you and I don't dislike you, so I love you. And I'm going to say it. And it's funny because we grew up on the same movies. And when it comes to toxic masculinity, there's toxic femininity.
Correct.
Human beings are toxic fucks because, and I really was going to try not to cuss so much.
No, I love it.
But there's toxic as a human being. We have toxicity as a species. So if me going up and saying, man, I want you to go and crush the day and slaughter it and absolutely decimate today, maybe that's because that person needs to hear that a sheer, hey, you can do it, ain't going to be enough. Know your crowd, know your environment. Now, if I'm in a room with you, let's say it's you, me, and your dad, right? Let's say it's you, me, and your dad. And for whatever reason, I get the vibe that me saying, sir, I want you to absolutely fucking crush the day is going to just not is just not gonna, he's not gonna feel it. But if I'm going like, sir, you know what? I know that you know that I know that you are absolutely gonna have a phenomenal day. Well, it's just
Right.
words. It's just words that are saying the same thing. One doesn't make it more or less toxic than the other, as long as they're heartfelt. Like that's where I have, again, it's all going to come full circle. If you are saying things heart from your soul, how's that ever going to be toxic? How is it going to be toxic?
For
Unless you
me,
mean it like from an asshole perspective.
and I think to that point, for me, my dad's a coach, or my mom, or these father figures, or these coaches in my life, these people I work with, my bosses, my higher ups, management. If I know their background, they can back it up, and I resonate more with people that are very in your face. We got to do this. This is what we're gonna do. Here's a game plan. Screaming, yelling. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I went to Norwich, because I love just the screaming and the yelling and the chaos. But I thrive in that, and so I do see where people who aren't used to that can be like, man,
Yeah, it's too
tell me
much.
to win the game. Don't tell me to rip the player's head off.
Yeah,
And I can see that side of it, but I
yeah,
do find it interesting, even in the most calm moments or whatever. I just love when someone gets fired up. I love
yeah,
someone who's so passionate about what they're doing or trying to teach or trying to whatever. Like, I don't
yeah,
know if I can go to one of your classes if you just stood there going, okay, so Krav Maga guys, we're gonna do this, and then this was
yeah.
passed down from
Right.
Master Avi Boy, and so it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no, tell me you're gonna rip my arm off,
yeah,
Marcus, if
yeah,
I don't do this right. And so
yeah.
it is.
I think, and I agree. Again, it's in the right place at the right time. But I think that there's a way to fire people up without, like, I'm also coming from the school of you got to beat down to build up, right? So I have to
Yes.
break down to get rid of all your garbage so that we can build you up to the best version of you. And toxic anything means that it's coming from a negative place. So if you feel like, I've had people come up to me and they've been ladies who have been like, I feel that you're they have used the word toxic, and I kind of giggle. I'm like, toxic. There's a lot of things I am. I admit it, but toxic, I'll never be toxic because of the fact that I come from a good place. Now maybe I'm toxic to you. Now maybe the listener listening to this may be like, you know what, John, I feel that toxic masculinity is an important thing that we have, because on the pendulum, we've been so far on one end where yelling at somebody and screaming cruel things to them has happened, that now we're swinging to the other end where everything's got to be sensitive and you've got to care about their feelings and care about what they identify as. And that's my problem is for so many decades it's been one way, and now we're on the other way. Can we just have a little bit of, you remember those teeter totters? You remember
Yes.
them?
The
Right?
seesaws.
Seesaws. And did you ever have somebody who jumped off and you ended up right?
Still
Like,
do it.
still, yeah. Because you know what? We needed to be taught that there's assholes on the planet, and we can be assholes and we can be good people, but it's a balance, man. We got to find some balance, and that's the problem we don't have on our planet right now. Is we have completely thrown balance right out the fucking window, and we're paying a price for it.
A couple of months ago, I put this thing out where it's like, I love when people become passion addicts. Find your passion and become
Yeah,
addicted to it. And 99% of the people, oh, this is great. I get it. There are a couple of people that message you like, yeah, but what if your passion's bad or it kills you? And I wrote back, I go, is it such a bad thing that your passion, you like, I didn't know. I was like, I was kind of put back. I'm like, my passions, the stuff I love, I'm willing to die for.
right,
Now,
right,
is that extreme in a sense? Sure. We're not talking about defending your right to can't bear arms or
right,
freedom of speech. We're talking about, man, if Marcus loves martial arts, he's gonna die doing what he loves. And
right.
there's nothing wrong with believing that. I just, for me to wrap my head around people that always find a negative connotation in
Yeah,
something, you're
yeah,
trying to be positive. And here's the other thing too. This is my page. This is my feelings. I'm not telling you to find your own passion. I'm saying if you do have one, become addicted to it because I think it will
yeah,
save your life.
yeah. And well, and I think the hard part is there's, what is your, like, the problem is most people don't know what their passion is.
Right.
And so if you don't know what it is, it's easy to shit on somebody and find, as you said, well, what if your passion kills you? You know, I know a lot of extreme sport athletes, and if they died in a hospital bed with tubes inside of them, that would be the cruelest way to go alive. Find what you find, like you said, find what you want to do and take it to your. Now, see, the funny part is extreme. The word extreme is subjective to you and I. What you find extreme, I might be like, it's nothing, or vice versa, right? Extreme is whatever's in your heart. Take it to the max of you and what you're at this point in time in your life.
It's you talk about the people that, if you look, I can't think of the guy's name, but there's been a bunch of them recently that have either died doing the big wave surf, or the mountain climbing where they do like Yosemite and stuff. And there's that great documentary on Netflix now where the guy climbed 14 peaks in a certain amount of time, and you rescue people in Everest after he climbed it. And every time one of those people dies, and it is sad and tragic, the people that are alive that knew how happy this person was doing what they did, they're sad that the person's gone, but they're happy that he went out on their terms, doing what they love. And that, my biggest regret in life, if it ever got to be, would be when you're dying in your hospital bed. This is very William Wallace Braveheart, many years from now, and you're just kind of like, man, did I really live the life I wanted to live? Like, did I fulfill my passions? Did I love as many people as I could? It's for me, it's like that stuff's very powerful to me.
Yep. And I think it was, and I'm going to massacre this, so whoever's listening and you're like, oh, I can't believe you screwed this up. But Patton said, don't feel sorrow for those that have died. Be thankful that God created men like this, right?
Yeah.
And like, whether it's parenting or I don't know, man, it doesn't really matter. Anything that you do, be the best version of you at it. And that comes at a cost, right? Anything you want to be great at comes at a cost. You didn't get to the position you're at right now with your job description. You did not get there by half-assing it. You sacrificed, and I don't even know the full backstory, but you sacrificed much that many people don't know about to get to where you're at now.
No, I think everyone, it's one of those things too, where it's like, are you willing to do that for what you love? And it's like, a lot of times people that know me know I don't do a lot of vacations. I can't do a lot outside of work because I have to help my mom take care of my dad as he's dealing with his stuff. And it's like, because of work, I've missed weddings and funerals and all this stuff, best man duties. Can't go on those vacations, even though I can clearly go, I have a duty to help my mom and help my dad. And it's like, are you willing? And you same way with your son. And it's like these moments in time where it's like, I don't regret not doing that stuff. I would regret not being there if someone needed me at home, especially if I'm not working. And for me, it's like, I find joy in being there around people. And maybe when I was 21, I'd be like, oh, let's go to the bar. Let's go to Dublin. Like, screw this. As I've gotten older and I'm 36 now, it's like, I don't need to go to the tropical island this time. I could do here. And it's like watching you with your son and stuff like that. It's so powerful because it's like people that would see you on the street, or if you're teaching or online, to be like, oh God, this guy he's so positive stuff. You have your bad days too. And the reasons why you do certain things that a lot of people know about. It's how you pull back those layers. You as Marcus is pretty cool too.
And I just wrote something about the fact that no matter what adjective, verb, pronoun you look at me and you're like, Marcus, he is blank. That's positive. I'm the villain in many stories. And the reason I am the way that I am now is because I've been the villain in many stories. You can't be the best, nice English, right? You can't be the goodest version of you if you haven't been evil at some point in time. And by evil, I mean not a good person. Kicking a dog, breaking the law, whatever it is that's evil for you, what's bad for you. If you have not been that way, then how are you supposed to appreciate being good and what good really is? And that's where I have a problem with social media. And we've talked at length about this. Is what you see a snapshot of something, right? You see that person that took the picture. Some, especially females, will take 982 shots, use one of them. And for me, it's kind of like, I want to see the before picture and the after picture.
Yes.
In some ways, it's kind of like when you look at people who put a verse of the Bible in there, right? And you're like, okay, this. And I'm like, okay, why don't you just use before and after for some context? Everything I think on social media should have some context. When I say something, don't just snip at that part, because sound bites, right? We've grown up now on sound bites. It's only sexy to take the one little part, fuck it right up, and then people are like, well, I can't believe he or she said that. Hold on, man. Look at the before and then look at the after, and then form an opinion. I saw a picture recently. It was of, I don't remember which royal it was, some famous person. And there's a picture of him doing this. And then they pan to the right and he's actually doing this, right? He's waving. And you cannot believe anything you hear or see currently. As sad as that is, you just can't. You can't.
When you do your, and I love when you do it, sometimes at night, sometimes you do it, but in the morning you do grab your coffee, you do like your walk, you have your earbuds in. It's always so like, it's so rad, because there's some days I watch you be like, man, he had a bad night or shitty morning, or he had a great night or a great day, or it's just, you still put yourself out there, that human aspect. It's so rare. The people, the lot of work you do, you're out there with, whether it's skill set mag stuff or whatever you're doing, whatever you do. It's so rare to have that human aspect to, this is just a dude who's living his best life he can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, you know what? I'm like this. I'm a piece of sand, pebble of sand in the beach, in the big scheme of things. But imagine if us as a society, everybody was just really transparent. Not, hey man, I had a bad day. Is it the worst day I've had? No. So then it's a good day, because I'm only going to have the worst. Oh, it's only a bad day if it's my worst day, but I haven't had my worst day yet. So it's a good day. And it is. And if you don't believe me, anybody listening, go talk to anybody who's survived cancer. Go. You ask them what their worst day is. And they're going to be like, well, I don't really have one anymore because I'm alive right now.
I caught myself a lot during the pandemic, where the grocery stores have like the lines, the dots, and go this way, go that way. And one day I'm in line, I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, what are we doing? I'm like, I had to I took a step back. I'm like, there's a kid at Dana Farber now looking out a window, wishing he could be in this line right now, and he can't. It's like, what am I bitchy about? It's like, sure, I've had bad days, but my worst day, or Marcus' worst day, is the best day for someone else's at that time. It's one of those important things. I think the more people realize that, the less issues, and it's just, I'm the first one to bitch. I love a good bitch, especially if it's in jest and joke and it's like something really stupid and trivial.
Right.
But there are people out there that you know too that will literally bitch about the dumbest stuff, and it's like, dude, is your life that?
Yep. And I've had people who are like, Marcus, because I like you, I use this, somebody has it worse, and I've had people like, well, that discounts how I'm feeling right now, and I have to put things in perspective. It doesn't discount it. You should be upset about what you're upset about. My point is how does that benefit you to wallow in that shitty space? It never helps anything. And if there's one thing I've learned in this last little while, is how I'm feeling right now is this moment right now. It's not a bad day, it's a bad moment. And if it's a bad moment, then I can sit there, embrace it, say, okay, it's a bad moment, and move forward and get out of that bad moment. And if it takes me to think about some poor kid who's just survived stage 4 cancer, or found out they stage 4 cancer, and as a result from that, I immediately have a vision of the new kid that's playing Spider-Man going into a cancer unit and having this kid do web slinging with it. And that kid's got stage 4 cancer, but his day is perfect now because he just met Spider-Man. Like, whatever, in all of that split second, my bad moment immediately is going to become a good moment, because you know what? I thought of something positive in a negative situation.
You to go back to something you said a little bit ago, the idea of you can't trust any of the media. I always find it funny too that, God forbid, this story gets put out or a quote or whatever. It's like they said this, and it comes out to be false and complete bullshit. There are a million tweets of the actual bullshit, but when it comes to the apology, if there is one, no one gives a shit about it. We're at that part of our lives where it's like, no one cares about accountability or being truthful. It's
Nope.
so mesmerizing.
Yeah, and there's the toxic. If you want to use the word toxic, that's the toxic part of our humanity right now. And if I went down that road of thinking about how just that, like that right there, how everyone just bad news travels faster than good news. Now, somebody once told me, and she was much older than me, because I said to her, I said, "Wow, we are like the worst part of our species right now." And she looked at me and smiled. She goes, "Honey, no, it's not. This is not the worst that we're at. We have had it far worse." And obviously, perspective from somebody who's 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 to now is going to look back and say, wow, no, you guys actually, everything's really good right now, no matter how bad you think it is. And when I sit there, and I kind of got off my point a bit, was we have always, as a society, done bad news has always traveled better than good news. Like that is just, as a species, a human species, we do better with negativity. Not better. We enjoy negativity more than we like positivity. And that's because usually we have to learn a lesson from a negative situation. I did something bad. I got a spanking. Whoa, I know not to do that specific thing because that translates to getting a whooping. We learn from a failure. We learn from a negative. That's just how we are as a species. Fuck it.
The other day, I love telling this, but a couple weeks ago, I was going to the store and I had your Hunt Your Local Pedophile shirt on. And I love it because it's such a great conversation piece. But someone I know saw me and was like, "Man, that's a little aggressive this morning, isn't it?" I go, "So it's raping kids." And
Amen.
I said it so like they know me, they know my humor, but they knew that was my honest reaction. It's like you're finding the atrocity in something saying kill a local pedophile, but you're not looking at why I'm saying it. And to kind of go to tie it in, it's like it's just so fascinating to me that people are so quick to look at something they determine it could be scary or vulgar, but it's like the message of this shirt is why we should kill.
Yep.
Now, I want this to lead into what I do want to talk about the human trafficking, the stuff you just did recently too, because I think that's really rad as well.
Yeah, and so I recently was working with a group, and I work with them quite a bit, called CRI, Children's Rescue Initiative, and sex trafficking, which has been around since the dawn of mankind. There's 498,000 different groups that are working on it. So, I'm shedding a little light on mine, but what made this trip spectacular was there was about 7 different organizations there at the same time, all working together to try to sit there and make it harder for sex traffickers to do their job. Sex trafficking is never going away. Like, it's just not. That's like saying that drugs will never stop being sold in it. Like, I mean, I have to be pragmatic about it.
Right. No more oil for cars. No more oil for shit.
Come on, man. Wake up and hit reality.
Right.
But where I am going to draw a line for is the acceptance of pedophilia and how we're changing the verbiage so that it's acceptable. So it's not so harsh and aggressive, and that we're going to use this word because we want it to be okay for an older person who sexually is active with young people, and it's okay. Now, I want to put some perspective before people shit their pants. First of all, the hypocrisy. As men, we have a hypocrisy. A 30-year-old man having sex with a 15-year-old girl is unacceptable. But when a 30-year-old woman has sex with a 15-year-old boy, right on, buddy, way to go.
There's jokes like, "Oh, I wouldn't tell the teacher."
Yeah.
Right.
So at the end of the day, there's an age of consent that has to be flexible, because I have seen 15-year-old girls who are like 20-year-old women. They're developed, their verbiage, the way that they are. So for me to sit there and say, well, that girl shouldn't have sex with an older man. Hey, man, at some point in time, we have to be flexible. So where I draw the line in is when a person cannot say no because they will be physically overwhelmed by their sexual partner. When they physically can't say no, that's when it's unacceptable. And now the beautiful part about that is because that's also adult women who are getting raped. If they cannot say no to the person that they're having sex with because that person is physically overwhelming them and they have fear and it stops them, then that is unacceptable. And there's no 10-year-old boy or girl alive that's like, yes, please have sex with me. Not one.
Correct.
Not one. So if you're okay with a grown man having sex with a 10-year-old child, if you're okay with it and you change the verbiage however you want to, you and I are going to have a moral disagreement. And I like to try to keep flexible, right, bro? Like I try to be as open as possible. That is something where I am not going to have an open mind. You are not going to change my mind on that. And it will lead to a very passionate conversation. It's not agree to disagree. It's no. And if I see you doing that, there's going to be a very stern talking to that's going to happen if I catch a man having sex with a child or a woman having sex with a child. Don't think I'm going to be like, oh, ladies, you get a pass. If you're a woman and you're playing around with a 10-year-old boy and sucking him off and doing these things, lady, you deserve a punch in the face with a baseball bat that has nails in it.
And I think it's that reaction that scares people. For me, it's like, it's a weird, because it's like, if you defend these kids and you are a good person, the language of punching a pedophile in the face or shooting a pedophile should not offend you. I get why it does.
It does. Yep.
Help me understand why it bothers you, though, because do you react the same way when you read a news article of a person assaulting a child, sexually assaulting a kid? Like, if you give it the same reaction, then I get it. It's the act. You don't like violence, but
yes,
sometimes you need violence.
Yep. And I'm reading a book right now, When Violence is the Answer by Tim Larkin. And I've never met the guy. It was really nice when he sent me the book, and obviously he and I speak the same language, and it makes a lot of sense. There is no cure for pedophilia because it's inside. Now, unlike people who are, if you're transgender and you hate who you are in the mirror, and you want to change it, then right on, brother and sister, go to it, find your happiness. But if your happiness is having sex with a 10-year-old child, then I strongly suggest that you don't take action on that.
It's funny. The first time I talked to you, like, Epstein just got killed. Maxwell was arrested. So it's funny that we're still talking about this. But after your episode aired and the one with Dr. Lewis Lee, who runs Children of the Night, I was approached by an organization, a gentleman say, "Hey, I work with this organization that stops human trafficking." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. I'd love to have you on." He goes, here's the kicker. He goes, "We are an organization that's based on, we are all convicted sex offenders who are now reprogrammed, or we want to stop what we went through." For me, while I appreciated that they changed their ways, for whatever reason, and I don't know if you might just hit on it. I don't know if you've already done. It's like me having Chris Brown's podcast to talk about why you shouldn't hit women after you've done something atrocious. Like, dude, you're a piece of shit. And for me, as a good Christian or whatever, I could forgive this person to talk about why human trafficking or sex trafficking is bad. So I don't know if that's something I'm dealing with, but when it comes to a crime or an act like that, I can't find forgiveness.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I have people who've bought the shirt and they're like, "Dude, I can't wear it. I'm buying it, but I can't wear it." And at first I was kind of like, "What is wrong with you?" Now I've had some time to go back and reflect. It's been a few years, and I get it. I do. I've got guys who buy the shirt and they're like, "Dude, I carry concealed carry all the time. I can't wear it because if I shoot somebody and they end up being a pedophile, I'm fucked." And again, I get it. Please, whoever's listening, don't think I'm not understanding and empathetic. But the visual, and now having been molested myself, I understand. Okay, so I once I saw one of the men who molested me as a child. And I was shaking. I was shaking because I was torn. Do I go over and stab this man repeatedly with whatever's in my hand? He was with his wife and child, and now I've kept tabs on him. He's now he's married to a man, and obviously his wife and child aren't there. But I was like this, and then I had regret afterwards. I'm like, what are you, a coward? Like, why wouldn't you go and do it? And it's my belief now, looking back, that I believe that God intervened on that one, because had I gone and done something, I would have gone to jail. And it's not my job to forgive him. I have a hard time believing that there's forgiveness in that. That's God's job. I'm going to let God forgive him. And that's not my job. I can try to be understanding, but I find a hard time doing it. And I've talked to women who have forgiven their assaulters. They're like, you know what? I forgive them for what they've done to me. And I'm like, you have a sense of growth, and you're up on a pedestal, because I'm not at that place yet. And I can't say I won't never be, because I don't want to put those limits on, but I have a huge amount of respect for those that can forgive those kind of acts. And it's pretty much the one thing I won't forgive on at this point in time. Everything else is forgivable.
The not to really change subjects or victims here, but the other thing too is like the elderly abuse, or
oh Lord,
or special needs people or kids or adults that get abused by people that work in these hospitals. And another act I can't forgive, and it's like, is enough being done for the defenseless? Like, because I'm always torn where it's like, oh, throw the book at him, put him in jail. And it's like, is that enough? Like, it's still happening. It's like, where are we messing up as humans, where it's okay to abuse an elderly person or assault a special needs person? It's just, how do we get rid of these evil people? Because it seems like you put 10 away in jail, or they get killed, or even I love the prisoners kill pedophiles too. I love that they're adamant about it. I kind of respect that. But where are we where evil continues to find a way? Like, what's the catalyst to bring these people to keep doing these actions?
Well, first of all, there's always going to be evil. That's never going anywhere. And it will be, as long as there's good, there's going to be evil. And you can argue that. People can argue it all you want. And again, I don't want to get into faith. I don't want to get any of that. I want to get into, if there's good, there's evil. And if there's evil, it's up to us as a species to stand up for those that are defenseless, right? The elderly, or the weak, or the ones who can't fight back. It's up to us to do it. Now, how do we do that? Well, that's a whole different show. And I think that there's a breakdown in our society that we've all turned a blind eye. I don't want to get involved. And let's look at domestic violence attacks. Okay, let's look at those, because that is a one spouse beating another spouse. If it's my understanding, I don't think it's changed, that the number one charge that most law enforcement officers get hurt in the line of duty on is domestic violence, because of this all of a sudden the switch in the partner. When we go, like, let's see, you and I are going down, and I actually get to come out your area, and we're having coffee and everything's good, and we see a kid being pulled by an adult, and the kid's screaming, no, that person's not, I don't know this person. And then you go, we grab him, wrap him up, we find out that kid was a lying little shit. A lot of us are desensitized to taking action because the reward and the risk, I'm going to end up getting charged with assault.
Well, it's like the Good Samaritan laws, where it's like, if you're a doctor in a traffic accident, like, you could be held liable, even though you're the first one there to maybe possibly save this person's life. It's very, the idea of punishing people who are acting on good faith and intentions, like you said it best, that would scare me to doing. And I never pray that I see someone abused in public, or an assault, or someone saying something to a handicapped kid. But I hope in my gut that I know I have enough restraint to not seriously maim or kill that person that's doing that.
Right. And, because we're both, obviously you're at a higher level with regards to security, there's ways to do things to enforce a secure environment that are not overtly violent. A lot of times your presence can be there and what have you. I believe in this. This is, I'm talking right now. It's just come to me right now. Us standing up in those moments, standing up for those that can't fight for themselves. What I'm hoping is that our actions show that person who's being abused that one, there's hope. There's hope. There's good people on the planet. And two, if they can change their scenario, that they will take action to change their scenario because they've seen through other people's actions that they can do it. Now, the elderly is a different situation, special needs is a different situation, obviously. So the only thing I can hope is that us standing up for those that can't shows evil that, not on my watch. And if all of us as a society who are good people could say, not on my watch, it makes it very problematic for them to be able to do those acts. Where I have a problem now in our society is evil doesn't give a shit. They'll do stuff right blatant in front because they're like, what are you going to do about it? Because of the fact that not enough people will stand up and say, not on my watch.
One of the and I read all the Stephen King books, and the reason why I love his books is because it's always good versus evil. It's always a bunch of miscasts, a bunch of freaks that band together to fight this evil entity. It could be an idea, a concept, an actual monster that represents something else. But I just love the fact that if we could get as a human race to all us freaks, all us miscasts, everyone that thinks differently, to think on the same page of good, like how. You did say it best, where it's like you need evil to be good for you. You need that yin and yang to push ourselves. But how cool would it be if the balance of the shift came to the good side, where it's like we could all think differently, we could all be different, but how much badass would it be if we were all this kind of good?
Yep. I have to have hope. Like for me, hope is the precursor to faith. I have to have hope. They say hope is not a course of action. I've been educated on this too. They're like, Marcus, stop making the correlation that hope is not a course of action. Because in a military or law enforcement or in a violent situation, you're right, hope ain't going to fucking help. But in life, hope is a course of action. And being hopeful leads to having faith. And having faith leads to sitting there and doing good deeds. And good deeds changes the shift, right? And hopefully maybe somebody even listening to this, doing something, helping an older person to their car.
Hold the door open.
Hold the door open. Put your cart back where it belongs. All these little things can make a change in the world. We can change everything if we just, these little acts become big acts, right? Like the rippling effect. Again, little pebble ends up with a big round circle. It's not rocket science. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since we've been upright as a species. Doing good things is the only course of action. If you know it's wrong, don't do it.
How fun has it been for you to get back on the road? Obviously, after the last couple of years, seeing people's faces again, seeing old friends, and getting out there and just doing what you normally do.
And it's changed a little bit because my job description has changed a little bit, but because I've mentioned this in the past, I'm kind of lost. Like I don't know what my purpose is. So going into a venue and doing what's comfortable for me, right? Educating people's comfortable, but seeing people have their aha moment of the mere fact that I am not completely useless if violence comes my way, which means that their fear management is better. And that's the big thing that I'm a huge fan of fear management right now. Tony Blauer,
world class.
Like for a grumpy old bastard, he is phenomenal, and I love shit talking him and I say it, as a matter of fact, I'll probably get off of this. I'm like, listen, I was on this podcast and I want you to know that I should talk to you yet again.
Tony's done this one with me. He's a hoot. He's a blast.
He is, right? And the problem is he's just too fucking smart. Like that's the problem, because to get into his brain and actually open up. You remember the Britannicas, the Encyclopedia Britannicas, right?
First guide for $39 and get the next.
Well, the problem is that some bitch will, we start at A, and by the time we get to B, he's already at 6 hours long because he has so much knowledge. But fear management, and it transcends self-defense and security and all that. It's about a quality of life that I care about. And so, to answer your long-winded answer, it's been nice to sit there and just see that there's good people on the planet, because sometimes we forget, and to watch people step over the threshold of where their fear or whatever their insecurity was, and to see that there's just a little glimmer of hope. It really has been phenomenal. So if I can get on the road and just do that and see people have those things, that would be
I noticed you were doing some of like the self-defense stuff, obviously like the workplace violence type stuff. And for me, it'd be cool just to see, because those aha moments you speak of, that type of stuff fuels me, and to be like, oh, maybe I said something right, or I'm making that small difference in this person's life that an hour before this class was afraid to tell their boss off in a coffee break room. And if you're able to bottle those aha moments, like, it's gotta be such a cool thing, is because I don't do any teaching or instructing. You get able to do that, but to see that in real time, it's gotta just be so awesome.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's the things that I hold on to during my bad moments. Not necessarily that I'll remember specifics, because I don't, but I remember the feeling. And that feeling is a lot of times enough to just wake me up a little bit and be like, Marcus, just remember, when you're lost and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you're praying to God every single day. Listen, what am I doing? What am I doing? Just remember what you've done so far. And it's not living in the past, because I don't do that, but it means that I've made an impact, and that means I have more of an impact to give out in whatever capacity that is. And even this conversation, if somebody's listening and they're like, well, listen, those two idiots. And wow, my takeaway is that I can stand up for myself, and that there are good people on this planet. If somebody gets one positive thing out of this, then it was worth the chat, right?
No, totally. Before I let you go, I think one of the cool things, the work you did, the fold outs for Skill Set Mag, your work with Clint Emerson, and the incredible book. I love all that stuff that you were part of that. I've never asked you this, but when you do something like that, you put yourself out there further in a different medium, different book, or a different person trusts you with what you're talking about. Is it a weight off your shoulder as well, that, man, maybe what I actually have been learning for the last 20 something years, it is going to make a difference, and I am respected in this way? Because you're something, for me, though, it doesn't look like you don't need skill set. You don't need Clemens to put you in a book. You're still going to be Marcus Torgerson, but I find it really cool that these people trust you to speak upon a subject matter that you really care about.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring Tony into this, because I was on his podcast, and it ended up being just him ripping me an asshole on the fact that I do this self-deprecation thing of, am I good enough, or, Clint, I think I might even said it in the past is, well, how did I get the book? Well, I stalked Clint. No, I got on the book because I'm good at what I do. And
100%.
And the fact there's no ego in that. That's just because, like, Clint Emerson wouldn't risk his reputation putting me in there if he didn't think that I had something to offer.
Correct.
So when I get validation in these things that I do, it does help with the insecurity, fear, and doubt that is running rampant in my body, because I couldn't possibly be good enough at what I'm doing, and that all these people are full of shit and it's a fluke. Well, you can't, remember Sammy Sosa and
Mark McGwire.
When they were knocking all those home runs, it wasn't a fluke. It was because they worked really hard to be able to knock that shit out of the park. And then how many times did they strike out to be able to get to those things? So all my failures have gotten me to this point where I've learned enough of my failures to be able to move forward in this way. And so, yeah, it feels good. It does. It feels good.
it is funny though too, knowing you and having got to understand you and become friends over this last couple of years. Into some of the Clint Emerson stuff where you're punching the I can't was it Hitler in the face?
Fuck yeah, it was.
Yeah, so you're
I
kicking
hit
Hitler.
Hitler in the face and kicked him in the balls.
It's like you're kicking Hitler in the dick, or you got that really cool shot of the pistol and the skill set mag cover. It's like, again, to kind of circle back here, you look at someone like you, if I didn't know, you'd be like, oh, this guy's a fucking badass. Clearly he knows what he's talking about. He knows all this, but holy fuck, he's a human that if I'm not into martial arts or self-defense or survival, I can still relate to Marcus because he says I love you, or he still has insecurities like I do. And it's like, there's not a lot of people in your industry that are able to put the heart on the sleeve. And I think if there were, more people would be like, oh, I get it now. They're really good at what they do. Like, I'm a good lawyer, or I'm a good construction worker, or I'm a good chef, or I'm a good stay-at-home mom. But now I get why they're at this level. It's like it's so easy to walk by one of those books in the store now where it's, oh, the new Sig Sauer out, or these hunting magazines where all these guys are flexing, carrying 12-point bucks. It's like, I get it because I know these people and I respect what they do. But if you don't put a soul behind someone's eyes, like, I'm not buying this magazine. And it's really cool because I have friends who I have these magazines laying around. People come over and be like, oh fuck, this is really good. Like, I remember this guy. This article with Tim Larkin. He's like, this guy has a podcast, right? I go, yeah. He goes, yeah. He's always came off as very like, I'm better than you or whatever. And they read this article and they're like, well, holy fuck, I get it now.
Yeah,
he's a human.
Yeah.
He has the same doubts you do in a grocery store. Yeah. And it's like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, and I think transparency is, like, for me, being transparent is a cloak of safety for me, because if I air everything out, then you have nothing to hit me with, right? That was how it started, and now my transparency has open conversations that would never happen, like talking to recovering addicts. Doesn't matter what it is, when they look and they're like, well, how did you do it? Well, I did it. And the fact that, or I talk to somebody who's been in recovery for 40 years or whatever, I give them a little fist bump and a hug, and I'm like, you're awesome. Again, giving hope to others in my actions. I understand now why I had to spend almost 50 years in this turmoil roller coaster of shit, because now, talking to my friend, I'm able to tell somebody, listen, well, I can speak with authenticity because of my previous actions in the past. And I can only do that by being transparent, because if I'm not transparent, then I feel like I've lost my validity as a human being.
No, it's so right on. Before I let you go though, Marcus, what do you got coming up? Anything coming on? Any new t-shirts? Like any ideas you've got floating around your head of yours?
Well, as you have gone into that apparel industry.
Yes.
The one thing I'm very bad at is the background. So packing shit up, sending it off, all the stuff that's important to having that ending, like clothing lines or cups or whatever. So there's ideas I have in my head. I just won't pull the trigger on them because I know how much I suck at the other parts of doing that business. And as somebody, I watch your live videos where you're folding and packing and doing stuff, and I'm like, you're amazing. You're amazing, because that shit makes me want to fucking strangle somebody. As for what I have going on, like, I look at my board and I have, question marks with people who have said, oh, I want you to come out here. I want you to come, until the contract's signed or until I have, money in the pocket. Right. So I've got some stuff that I'm working on so that when I'm not flying around, I'll have some ways of income, and, I feel better about myself of making money on a regular basis. I might be moving back to Texas. I shouldn't say I might. I'll be moving back to Texas. I just need to find a way to do it. Texas is definitely where my heart is. But no, I don't have anything going on except every day I do that. Like, my discipline is the same thing every day. I get up at 4, make coffee. I study the word. I go for a walk. I'm reading 2 books at the same time. And I tried to do a little
how do you read two books? Are they both same subject matter or?
No, they're different subject matters.
Okay,
so
I was gonna say.
like this is the crazy faith is this kid's unbelievable. I saw him online, and just the way that he speaks and he writes the way he speaks. And then I'm reading this, the Tim Larkin book. So I need to sit there because I can only read a subject matter for so long before I'm like, okay, I don't understand what I'm doing anymore. So I need to go away and read something else. And then I go for walks. You know me, man. I go for my walks. And that's where I start to clear out a lot of the bullshit that's in my head. And I know that I'm on a limited amount of time that I can do that, because at some point in time, God's going to sit there and be like, listen, here's what I need you to do. And my world's going to change. And I'm going to be very much like you and how your world is, that you're doing what you're doing on a massive scale. And when you do have moments of home, you're busy doing important shit, like with your mom and your dad and your business. Like, so I take these moments of like the calm before the storm. To be honest with you, it's been 2 years, but I know that at some point in time it'll end.
No, and it will, and it has to. Marcus, this has been amazing. Thank you for jumping on here again for the third time. And honestly, like, I could keep going, but we both have stuff to do. But I love the idea that there's no agenda, no notes, literally just two people. It's so refreshing. We don't have to plug a book. We don't have to plug a class. You can literally talk about whatever. And I love that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, I obviously we're good friends because we can sit there and just bullshit, which is what we've been doing. And I love the fact that you flipped the script a little bit and you went off your agenda or what your plans are, how you do things, and we just got to bullshit. And what I really hope is that whoever's listening to this gets as many takeaways as I got out of it.
No, I think they will. I think it's a necessary talk between two people. It's hopefully these are conversations people can have over dinner or at restaurants where maybe take out some of the punching people in the face and call people bitches. But you know what? Take that out of it. It's still the same.
It's all about hug and love, man. That's no matter what. This whole thing comes down to communication, hugs, and love. Like, that's what this is about. No matter what.
Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome, Marcus. Thank you, sir.
All right. I love you, brother.
Bye. How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk. You might not know this, but before I record an episode, I like to break a sweat. And I do that using the Chop Fit. Over the course of the past year, the Chop Fit has allowed me to lose weight, tone up my body, and feel even more amazing about myself. A feeling that you should all feel about yourself as well. If you use this code, SpearChop10, you get $10 off your order. Once again, use code SpearChop10 for $10 off your Chop Fit order. It'll change your life. Thank you.